Hey, it's Dan the Thrift Man again, and back with another video. This is one of the items I've been picking up at the thrift stores, estate sales, garage sales over the years, and it's the early releases of the Disney films, and this was the very early beginnings in the 1980s of Disney releasing its films on video. Now, originally Disney just released some of their films with a format called Disco Vision. It was MCA was the inventor of a laser disc type disc that you would put in a player, and it would play movies through a like a record. And then later on, that format really never was successful, and Disney decided at one point to just rent their films through a company called Photomat, which was a little store, usually in a mall parking lot or a parking lot of a strip mall, and you would have your photos processed there, and you could also rent videos. And from what I've been able to find out, those are very rare videos, and Photomat would charge you like $7.95 to rent a Disney film. And those are, I'd love to find some of those. From what I've heard, that they didn't package them in anything. They were just on, tapes, and no packaging like you see here, which here's one called the North Avenue Irregulars that, Disney did a nice job eventually of packaging their videos nicely, but when they were just renting them, they didn't bother. Anyways, Disney was really reluctant to put their films out on videotape for whatever reason, and suddenly there was a change in the leadership at Disney, and Michael Eisner came along and he said, hey, let's sell our videos, and let's sell them for like $90. I think they were like $89.95, and then we'll tell everyone that it is a limited release, and that at a certain time you will no longer be able to get this film for it'll go back in the vault and you won't be able to get it. And so they did that, but they didn't really ever keep them in the vault very long. They kept releasing them. Some of them they would sell for $89.95, and then later that year they would stop selling that movie, and then start selling it again for like $30 later on. So I think people that bought it for $89.95 would be really annoyed to find out a few months, if they would have just waited a few months, that they would have been able to get the film for a lot less. So the VHSs stayed at that $30 per movie level for a long time, and still Disney sells most of their films a lot more. They're a lot more pricey than you can get a lot of other studios' films for at the store. Anyways, let's start off here with Mary Poppins. As you can see, I have like four different Mary Poppins VHS tapes, and actually they look very, very similar. to each other, but there's subtle differences. As you can see, this one has a different type. You know, it's not it's you know, not like these other ones. It's not got the white surrounding the letters, but each of them has the same exact photo of the characters on the front. This one has VHS stereo at the bottom, which I think you can see that right there. So that's a little bit of the difference. Other than that, you know, they have the Walt Disney Home Video at the top, and everything's pretty close to the same. Of course, they always came in these nice what they call clamshell containers that they put the tapes in. Now, on the side, you can see there's some differences too here. You can see they changed the logo to run this way on the one that says VHS stereo. Mickey's still in the same place up there. And then they moved Mary Poppins down here. There's no photo of Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins, on the side of this one. It's the only one that says it's in stereo. These all say, you know, looks like closed captioning, and 023 is the number on them. This one's got a purple line, and then it says 23V on it. Now, an interesting thing about these early tapes is a lot of them didn't have barcodes on them. Well, this one has a barcode, but this one that looks almost exactly like it, you know, the photos have changed a little bit, but the everything else is pretty close to the same. This one does not have a barcode anywhere on it, you know. And this one says hi-fi stereo. This one says VHS stereo. This one, again, this one has a barcode on it. So I'm assuming it's newer. It's, you know, similar photos as the other two. And this one says presented in digitally processed hi-fi stereo. So again, a little bit of a slight change. And again, this one has a barcode, and it's pretty close to this one. Everything else seems to line up pretty well. So, you know, I don't really know, other than I would say the one without a barcode is probably the oldest version of Mary Poppins that I have. If you look inside, they're, you know, they appear to be fairly close to the same artwork and all the same printing and everything on each one. It's hard to believe that people would pay, you know, $90 for a VHS tape, but back in the day, that was the only way you could get some of these films. So other than that, everything's pretty close to being the same. So much for Mary Poppins. So when you're looking for these at your thrift store or whatever, which they're harder and harder to come by anymore. I used to be able to find them pretty regularly, but anymore I can't. Yeah, it's hard to find them. Here's one from the movie Fun and Fancy Free, which had the animated short Mickey and the Beanstalk. And This is one that I only ever have found one of these. These stickers right here, they tend to get real loose and fall off, so you have to be kind of careful with them. But that's doesn't appear to be a rental, because usually they say rewind on them. So this must have been one that somebody bought at the store. Here's another old Disney movie, The Monkey's Uncle. Annette Funicello, Tommy Kirk, and this one actually, I've watched it, and it actually, the Beach Boys are in this. Here's the Beach Boys right here on the back, and it's kind of fun to watch them, and Annette singing with them. So it's one to keep your eye out for. Then we've got one here. I never remember seeing this one as a kid growing up, but Napoleon and Samantha. Looks like a fun movie. Johnny Whitaker and Jodie Foster, I mean, they went on, at least Jodie Foster went on to do, motion pictures later on, and she was featured in many Disney films. So who else is in this? Michael Douglas is in this. Will Geer, some big names, and Major the Lion. So that's Major the Lion, and yeah, this one's looks in decent shape. The other, here's another one, the North Avenue Irregulars I showed you before. Again, has a lot of people: Karen Valentine, Michael Constantine, Cloris Leachman, lots of big names in that one. Kind of an unusual movie, I think, for the time that it was made, when they were making a lot of movies like The Monkey's Uncle and stuff like that for kids. I think they were trying to, move into the more adult teenage audience. Here's one, Lieutenant Robinson Crusoe, USN, with Dick Van Dyke. I did watch part of this one day, and it just wasn't real good. It didn't capture my attention for very long. One of these days I'll have to watch it all the way through. Maybe it gets better. And somebody actually put some information about it inside the clamshell here. Here's another one, and this one looks like it's been kind of changed, like somebody made their own clamshell case out of it. It's The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, and I don't know, it looks a little suspicious to me, but I went ahead and got it. Roddy McDowall, Carl Malden, Suzanne Pleshette, lots of big names in this one too. I mean, back then they got some big names to do their films. So here we go with the Boatniks, and I do remember seeing this one as a kid, and I think I enjoyed it. I need to probably watch it again as an adult, but it's again, I think it's a little unusual for the audience that normally they would go for. We've got Robert Morse, Stephanie Powers, Phil Silvers, Norman Fell, Wally Cox, Don Amici. I mean, people whose names are still recognized today. And here's Big Red. Big Red, boy and his dog, obviously. I don't think I've watched this one yet. It does have Walter Pidgeon in it. See anybody else's name that the co-producer was Winston Hibler. You'll not recognize that name if you're a Disney fan. He did a lot of films for Disney, and that tape seems to be in pretty good shape. Okay, another Annette Funicello film, Babes in Toyland. This is a fun, especially at like Christmas time to watch this film. It was probably an attempt to kind of get kind of a Wizard of Oz kind of feel to it. Ray Bolger, he's, if I'm not mistaken, from Wizard of Oz. Tommy Sands, Annette Funicello, Ed Wynn. Ed Wynn was, he did a lot of, and his, I believe it was his son, Keenan, that did a lot of Disney films. So that's worth watching. Here's one that was just animated Goofy films, Goofy shorts. This is actually volume 4, so there must have been some other compilations of different character things. This is just about sports, which, Goofy, they had put Goofy in a lot of, sporting type films. And this one's kind of in a weird brown clamshell. It actually has the Walt Disney Home Video logo in it. And that looks like it's seen better days, but so here's another film that looks like somebody made up their own case for it, their own clamshell, those Callaways. Again, interesting film that I probably need to watch someday. It has Ed Wynn in it again, Vera Miles, Brian Keith, Linda Evans, lots of people that did a lot of, and again, producer was Winston Hibler, and directed by Norman Takar. And it says, Cam Calloway, Brian Keith, is a man with a dream to one day establish a sanctuary for the geese that fly overhead during their long migration. Unfortunately, Cam lacks the money to buy the necessary property until his son, Bucky Brandon DeWild, embarks on a project that will guarantee success, unaware that greedy hunters are manipulating the Calloway family for their own selfish gains. So, how are they going to get out of that one? And here's a fun one. I've got a couple of these, in fact, are the, this film try to get people to go to Walt Disney World in Florida. And I'm sure they probably potentially sold these probably at the parks as souvenir films to take home and show people what you did when you were at Disney World. And probably at this time there was just Disney or the Magic Kingdom, probably no Epcot yet or anything like that. It shows the contemporary here. It shows the old dock with the old boat and some golfing, and of course the submarine ride that doesn't exist anymore there. But that's definitely a keeper there to see how much Disney World and the Magic Kingdom has changed. Oh yes, Tron, a cult favorite here. Tron was kind of ahead of its time, they were using computer animation and things in this, so it was kind of groundbreaking in a lot of ways. And had Jeff Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, David Warner, are some of the big names in there, and some cool special effects in this one, and they made a sequel years later. So it got so popular, I think, over the years and built up such a following that they decided to make a sequel. And here's Pollyanna. Yeah, that one's one I've watched a number of times. Very good film. Jane Wyman, Carl Malden, and of course, you know, Haley Mills. That was did so many of the Disney films. I think this may have been her first Disney film. And Haley was, it says here, won an honorary Academy Award for the most outstanding juvenile performance of 1960. So it says it's the best live-action movie Disney has ever made, Time magazine. And that one's in good shape. That looks like it's hardly ever seen the light of day. And again, that one's got, I think maybe it's just these clamshells are starting to, you know, they're starting to get brittle, and they're going to eventually probably fall apart. But I think the yellowish on there is just from age, because on the bottom it's white, but on the side and the top they're kind of brownish, beige looking. Oh yeah, the Swiss Family Robinson. Can remember seeing this one. Very good film, action-packed, and has John Mills, Haley Mills' father, I believe, James MacArthur from, if you remember the original Hawaii Five-0, and I think he did a couple Disney films as well. Tommy Kirk, of course, and so this is a good one. Kind of different for Disney too. It wasn't a wacky comedy, you know. And here's another one that was, of course, everybody remembers Old Yeller, and that was a sad one at the end, but definitely was, you know, one of their higher quality films. Dorothy McGuire, Fess Parker, Chuck Connors, Tommy Kirk, some of the people in it, directed by Robert Stevenson, who did a lot of Disney films. It says, on the New York Daily Times, said, homespun with tender care, a picture to make the heart churn and the tear ducts flow. It was a perennial appeal of love with a remarkable endurance, the relationship between a boy and his dog. So that's a good one. Pete's Dragon. A lot of people like this film. I just never cared for it that much, but it was kind of neat that they incorporated the live action and the animation, just kind of like they did with the Disney did with the original Alice comedies, where, you know, she was a live action person. Alice was interacting with a cartoon world. This was just the opposite. The cartoon was, you know, and there was other films like that with, you know, that they did where they incorporated animation and live action. Of course, Helen Reddy was in this one, Mickey Rooney, Red Buttons, Shelley Winters, just a cavalcade of stars on this one. It says, the Hollywood Reporter said, the incredible Walt Disney Wizards have created a totally satisfying musical. Pete's Dragon is an enchanting entertainment. Yeah, I just found it boring, but I can see why there's people that really like it. And I think the remake was not very good either. But anyways, that's all of my VHS I have, but I do have some beta, and this one's interesting. It says $39.95 on it, so when this came out it was $39.95. A Muppet Home Video, actually put out by Disney because it's Buena Vista. You know, probably, I'm sure before Disney ever bought the Muppets, but I do have a beta player recorder, and so one of these days, it's Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which I have on DVD, and it's fun. It's a good Christmas film, and so. Let me see what else we have here. Again, Babes in Toyland. This one says $69.90 on the front of it. So somebody paid $70 for this one. Again, it looks exactly like the VHS one that I have, but it is beta. I'm losing my background. Hold on. Okay, a few more betas here, and okay, here's one I do not have on VHS or any other format for that matter, is Love Leads the Way. Timothy Bottoms, Eva St. Marie, some other people, I don't recognize their name, $69.90 on this one. See, Love Leads the Way is the true story of Morris Frank, played by Timothy Bottoms, who was blinded in a boxing accident and became the first person to train with a seeing eye dog. Eva St. Marie, one of the 3 Oscar-winning actors in the film, portrays Dorothy, the founder of the Seeing Eye Incorporated. Their struggle to gain legislative and public acceptance of guiding dog concept is a compelling and heartwarming story. So, a true story. Love Leads the Way. Has potential, I think. Here's one that kind of a public service video that Disney put out, Too Smart for Strangers with Winnie the Pooh. It says, let Winnie the Pooh help protect your kids from strangers. So that was probably a nice thing that Disney did. It's actually not animated. It's, you know, the dressed up in costume characters. But kind of a good thing to show your kids to keep them safe. Let's look at that one. Yeah, that one, decent shape. Dumbo, which everybody says has never been put it back in the vault, that they've put Dumbo out so many times that you know, they've always threatened, oh, you're not going to be able to see this one for, you know, another 10 or 14 years or something like that, but they always seem to have it out in some format of some kind. This one says for sale only, not intended for rental. So, and that says please rewind, so this was probably it was probably a rental, even though it says not intended for rental. Interesting. Then we have The Island on at the Top of the World, starring David Hartman, who, you know, I think he had a short-lived TV career, and the thing I remember him on was like, I think it was like Good Morning America or something like that. Island on the Top of the World. Let's see, David Hartman, Donald Senden, don't see other. It was directed by Robert Stevenson, is a name that we've heard already a couple times. This is from a Jules Verne novel. So, you know, I've seen parts of this, and looks pretty good. Just hard to think of David Hartman in an action role like that. And Storybook Classics, another compilation of Disney shorts, animated shorts. This one has Little Toot, Chicken Little, Peter and the Wolf, and the Grasshopper and the Ants. So 4 cartoons. They probably paid $40, $60, $80 for this, maybe back in the day. And again, it looks like it must have been a a rental somewhere for a while. So, oh yeah, Fred McMurray, The Happiest Millionaire, Beta Hi-Fi. That's something I don't think I've seen that on any of the other tapes. Beta Hi-Fi. So this one must be a newer. They decided to go to hi-fi there, and here we go with it has Fred McMurray, Tommy Steele, Greer Garson, Geraldine Page, Leslie Ann Warren, probably in one of her first movies, and she's still doing a lot of work in Hollywood, and looks like a wacky comedy. I've seen bits and pieces of this one, but it's definitely looks like it might have possibilities. Oh, the Herbie films. Always loved these. These are always good. I always enjoyed these. Herbie the Love Bug, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, and Dean Jones, Don Knotts, Julie Summers. Who else? Anybody big? No, but Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, a good one. And that looks like somebody's home video. And last but not least is Herbie Rides Again. Now this one says $69.95 on it. And it, although, yeah, it looks like a home video, not a rental. And Helen Hayes, Ken Berry, Stephanie Powers, Keenan Wynn, directed by Robert Stevenson, you know. Again, there's that name. But so that's kind of it here with my original releases of the Disney films. You know, a lot of these I picked up at the thrift store. Sometimes they would have sales, and they would be 10 videos for $1. You know, and even, you know, I don't see those kind of sales anymore for. I mean, some of the thrift stores aren't even carrying VHS anymore. They only have DVDs or Blu-rays now, but some of them still have VHS, and usually it's 50 cents or $1 for a VHS tape. But I think they're fun. I think they're, you know, in years to come, they're going to be interesting for people to look at and say, wow, you know, a lot of the kids today aren't going to know what VHS was, and just like record albums, I think they're fun to have because there's so much content on the you know, outside that you can look at and read, and so anyways, keep your eyes out for these, because I think they're worth grabbing, especially for $1 or 50 cents if you see them at the thrift stores. Anyways, I'll hopefully be back with another video real soon. Thanks. Bye.